a lot of the times we're faced with like, this, and then we're like, where's my village? Like, where's my help? And, nowadays when you're browsing on social media, a lot of people are asking the same question. It's like, where's my village?
Like a few months ago, I asked my neighbor for yeast. I was making challah and my yeast was too old and I was about to go to the supermarket and my neighbor saw me and I said, hey, do you have a packet of yeast? And later, my 4-year-old recounted, oh, mom got the yeast that she needed for the bread from, our neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really a wonderful opportunity for him to see that you can ask other people.
And now this is kind of like where we're finding that happy middle, is that how can we have our cake and eat it too? Like, how do we have our village without giving up our autonomy? How do we set boundaries without being mean? How do we, respect each other?
Again, you have to sit with it. And that's okay.
I feel like we need to have a boredom summer camp where you just go somewhere and do absolutely nothing. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Once Upon a Feeling. Today, I have an amazing guest, Dr. Annie Josephson. Dr. Josephson is a clinical psychologist practicing in New York. She's also the founder of Uptown Psychology in New York and Miami. Welcome, Annie.
I am so happy to be
Thank
here.
you so much. I know it's super busy. Kids are off and they're just crazy summer schedules and they're home. So really appreciate you spending this hour with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I have been thinking about what we should talk about today. And I think in my season of life right now, especially in the summer, and we were just talking about this before we hit the record button, there are so much stuff right now in my world that it is overwhelming. And one thing that, when you're inundated with 3 different to-do lists that's filled to the brim, I start to question, how did I get here? A lot of the times we're faced with this, and then we're like, where's my village? Where's my help? And, nowadays when you're browsing on social media, a lot of people are asking the same question. It's like, where's my village? And there are people saying well, no, you got to pay your way to get your village. And it's not there anymore. We're all expected to do everything well alone. The family structure now is so nuclear. We're away from the grandparents. So it kind of got me thinking about this piece about help. And I remember kind of going back to my childhood when my mom didn't ask for help. She hated it. And her thing always is well, why would you want to trouble people? That's always the thing. We can handle this ourselves. Why do you want to trouble people? I don't want to owe anyone anything. There's that contractions. I thought it was so interesting. So for me, my conditioning is that, I got to handle everything myself because my mom did. So it's pretty, it's not sustainable, come to realize many, many decades later. And so, I guess my question, or I want to talk to you about is, well, we're all really good at helping others. I feel like Mr. Rogers has drove that home for a generation and a half. How do we, one, retrain our own brain to say it is okay to ask for help? And 2, how do we, now I'm thinking about how do I teach my kid it's okay to ask for help, how to ask for help, and how to receive help without shame, without thinking that you're not good enough, and et cetera. So I would love to kind of let's start there. What is your take on this?
Yeah. I I have the same experience that you have, right? I had endless to-do lists, and it takes so much for me even to turn around to someone, whether it's my husband or another family member, and say, "Hey, can you help me out with this thing that I have to do?" Um, so to start with, how do we teach our kids to ask for help? A lot of it is modeling. Kids learn so many things through modeling. So are they observing us ask for help? I mentioned to you a few minutes ago that I will regularly ask neighbors and friends for, typically it's groceries. Typically it's small things. Like a few months ago, I asked my neighbor for yeast. I was making challah, and my yeast was too old, and I was about to go to the supermarket, and my neighbor saw me, and I said, "Hey, do you have a packet of yeast?" And later, my 4-year-old recounted, "Oh, mom got the yeast that she needed for the bread from, our
Mm-hmm.
neighbors." And that was really a wonderful opportunity for him to see that you can ask other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of it is showing your kids through modeling. And then some of it is suggesting and practicing with them how they can ask for
Mm-hmm.
help. So, for example, in my home again, when my son was learning how to get potty trained, we would actually practice him waking up in the morning and saying, "Hey, mom, I have to go potty." And I would stand outside the room and I would say, "Okay, you're loud enough," or "You need to be a little bit louder," or "You need to come into my room." And we practiced it several times. And I mean, those are a lot of the basics, but even if you transition to school or transition to, needing help emotionally, right? Modeling for your children, "Hey, mom's having a hard day. I'm struggling because of X, Y, and Z," of course, in child appropriate language. And so I asked my friend to come over. I asked daddy to help me. I asked so and so, sister, brother, whoever, to speak on the phone.
Yeah. So
And so a lot of it is that.
for those of us who literally cringe at the thought of like, what do you mean I have to ask for help? And for some of us, it comes so like unnatural. Like it's just like I can't. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, it's exposure.
Okay.
It's the way you treat any other anxiety disorder,
Okay.
right? Like, not saying that's an anxiety disorder, but exposure is essentially when you put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and you see that the world responds and it's okay.
Mm,
And so you do it over and over again, asking for help in small situations like going next door and getting an egg, asking for help in bigger situations like getting picked up from the
mm-hmm.
airport, right? Or having someone come over. A few nights ago, one of my sisters was saying that her child was having surgery for their tonsils, and we practiced her asking my mom for help
Oh
to
my
come over
gosh.
after the
This is
surgery.
so great.
Yeah. And then my mom was on the phone with both of us, and we clarified together exactly what help my sister
Oh my
needed,
goodness. That is so
right?
good.
When my mom needed to come over, what she needed to do and what role she would play in the post-surgery care. And my mom asked a few clarifying questions, and we once again reiterated and answered those questions just so everyone was kind of on the same page. And afterward, she felt pretty relieved that she had been clear about what she needed.
So this is kind of interesting because I think there is always this fear, especially with us asking the older generations for help, right? Like a lot of the times we go into this preconceived notion like, oh, they're not going to be of help at all. They're going to do what they want to do, what they think is helpful. And therefore, I don't want to deal with it. Like a lot of the times, and I also feel like my theory is like
Yeah.
that's how we swung the pendulum so far from like multi-generational living to nuclear family because we don't want to have it. Like I don't want to have you dictate how I do things. I guess like there's the fear of judgment, interference, what have you. Um, so I guess one thing is asking our parents or the older generation of what we kind of need help on. I love the fact that you spelled it out. This is what I need. This is what I need you to do. Yada, 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 yada. But for those of us who may have more strong-willed or just different parents, I guess, how do you manage that? Like, what are some of the strategies that you would suggest? Coping, managing, setting expectations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I talk to people about
Mhm.
this a lot. I think it depends kind of like, how is that person helping you? Are they helping you on a like a single basis, or are they helping you? Is this a parent that comes over twice a week and helps you take care of your
Mhm.
kids? Because that, in my mind, changes how rigid you are around the way in which they help
Mhm.
you. If you're having your parents come over for an afternoon to watch your kid, maybe you don't care if they eat ice cream. It's one afternoon. Like, what's the harm in that? If your parents come over twice a week and your kids are eating a whole box of Oreos, you might have a bigger issue with,
Mhm.
right? So it's hard. I think it's about deciding, and this is true of anything parenting wise, deciding what your non-negotiables are. What is really important to you and what can you let go? In that example, are you really focused on healthy eating? Are you really focused on the kids not watching TV? Are you really focused on them getting their homework done or their chores done or the house being clean? Because there's a certain level of, if somebody's helping you, you kind of have to let them help you and let go a little.
And I'm trying to think about what that intergenerational dynamic looks like. And, I don't know who the listener are. Maybe there are some parents, and I'm hoping like some of the grandparents will also listen to this too. How does one receive that, if you will, guidelines or rules or whatnot without feeling being judged, and vice versa? Um, that is so interesting. It's such an interesting space, but we have so
Yeah.
many people coming together. Um, I think that's when it gets hard. There's that friction. There is when we really have to kind of figure out what works and what doesn't.
I think it's also about respecting one another, right? When you're talking about people helping you that are perhaps had been parents before, whether it's your parents or it's another person, do you have respect for them? And my hope is that if you're asking someone for help, you respect them, right? And I think that oftentimes you'll hear grandparents make comments like, well, we raised you. And part of it is, do you have respect for the way that they raised you? Maybe it's not exactly how you want to raise your kids, but can you understand the world in which what they did made sense? And can you tolerate them using some of those same strategies with your kids?
Mhm. And if not, just set the boundaries kindly. Yes, I see that.
Or, yeah,
However,
or get help
yeah,
elsewhere,
yeah.
right? Like, you always have to decide how important it is to you.
I think this is kind of one of the things that we have to all collectively learn and discern is how do we had our village before, and that village was great, but it came with a lot of baggages, if you will, things that we didn't want. And then we swung to the other side, which just threw the entire village away. It was like, nope. And now this is kind of like where we're finding that happy middle is that how can we have our cake and eat it too? Like, how do we have our village without giving up our autonomy? How do we set boundaries without being mean? How do we, respect each other? And I think that goes both ways. So for all the parents and the grandparents listening out there is that I want to be part of my grandchildren's life. How do I be that and respecting my children's way of parenting without thinking that this is about them judging me? It's just time is different. The end. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. That is beautiful.
And sharing also, I want to say, like, for your kid, if your kids are asking friends for help, if your kids are asking teachers for help, it might be done in a way that they don't particularly love. And it's about tolerating that people do things differently.
That is so
And it's not
interesting.
wrong.
Okay. I feel like that explains the bigger society in general. Like if you're looking at even just politics or how, divided the world is right now, it's almost like we can no longer tolerate when people think differently, do things differently, like all of it. So I guess can you talk a little bit about how do we grow that capacity? How do we grow that capacity in ourselves? What are the things that we can do? And how do we grow that capacity in our children?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is cognitive flexibility, right? We're learning to, and I use the word tolerate like 20 times a day because I'm like, you don't have to like it, but you have to tolerate, right? And so a lot of it is building our capacity to be more flexible. And, I often talk about being a black and white thinker and that there's so much gray. And how can two things be true at the same time? You can, have someone who's helping you and you totally disagree with 95% of the things they do. But they're still driving you to the airport or they're still, doing X, Y, and Z. And I agree with you. I mean, I think a large issue in our society right now is people being unable to tolerate other people's opinions and thoughts and, preferences and the way that they look. And so it is about really showing your kids that, modeling that through your actions, through your words, that, so and so said this. And even though I don't necessarily agree with it, people are entitled to their own opinions. And we can still have them in our life. And of course, I don't mean that with regards to like pure hatred. It's about learning to tolerate. You don't have to necessarily understand someone's perspective to recognize that it's allowed to exist. And I was saying kind of like the limitation is hatred or, opinions that are completely not founded in fact or based in reality. And of course, like, I think we take those in a different way, but teaching your kids that everybody's going to have different opinions.
It is so interesting because I keep on coming back and, this idea of friction. And we talked about technology, right? I feel like this keeps on like, just happening in my brain. I'm just so tuned to it in the sense that Uber or Instacart and all of these technological advancement, if you will, we're advancing ourselves out of a village. We're advancing ourselves out of friction. We're basically trying to remove, we're optimizing, like, in the engineering and jargon is like we're optimizing for everything. Everything is faster, smoother, and all the things. Well, what happens then is that, well, you can no longer tolerate, having a web page downloading, like, for a whole minute. You want something and you want it and it's not. I wonder, and I would love to have your point of view from a clinical standpoint, like what happens when you remove all friction?
Oh, there's such an inability to handle discomfort. I mean, I have conversations all the time about boredom and the importance of boredom. And I tell people, look, I had a wonderful childhood. And there were days that I sat outside. My parents were like, go run outside for 30 minutes. I was bored. I'd climb a tree. I'd sit down on the grass. I'd run around. I'd complain. I would think about things. But I was bored. Figured it out. And I think nowadays, you're right. Even the idea of like your computer loading or someone not responding to your text. The amount of conversation I have with teens about people not responding to their texts, it's almost like you would think texts go to kids' brains. Like they're like, she didn't respond to me for an hour. She must have dropped me. And I'm like, an hour? She could have been in the shower. She could have been blow drying her hair. She could have been doing anything. She could have been twiddling her thumbs. But it's so hard for people to recognize that like things aren't necessarily going to go according to plan and I'm not going to get things immediately. And I talk to people so much about discomfort. We don't have to like it, but again, we have to like sit with it. And that's okay.
I feel like we need to have a boredom summer camp where you just go somewhere and do absolutely nothing.
like grass. I know. I would love it. I would like be the cheerleader of that.
And like it's gonna be one of those things where like you come here and we have nothing. We got dirt and a pond and maybe a couple of trees.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh my God. And then like I would love to kind of hear like if you can kind of talk a little more about your work too, because I know you work a lot with the anxiety population and things like that. We all read the book, The Anxious Generation. Uh, can you kind of like go in a little bit about that, what you see and like what is a bigger problem and things like that?
Yeah. So I see a lot of, I start from kids. So we start from like age 8 up through adulthood. And I would say with a primary focus on like childhood and young adults. And then we see a ton of parents. And I would say the thread running through most of my patients is anxiety, depression, some ADHD, executive function stuff. And, with regards to technology and the role that that has played on a lot of the children I work with. So, I started my practice unintentionally during COVID. And just,
Mm.
the plan to start was in February 2020 to start in July of 2020. And then the pandemic hit and it just happened. And, the pandemic was such an interesting time because we've been talking so much about villages and how technology has created a frictionless world. And in so many ways, the pandemic exacerbated and validated people who wanted to be isolated.
Mm.
And it was like, well, of course, I'm not going to go outside and see people because I shouldn't, because I'm going to get someone
Yeah.
sick. And so many people I'm even seeing now, young adults, who have kept with kind of that pace of life and it has slowed down them living their life. Yeah, which is really
Yeah.
sad. But I see, from the technology perspective, so many teens, so many young adults who really, their relationship with technology is so messed up. And they spend so much time on it. They connect their value and self-worth to it so much. And they don't really know how to communicate with people in real life.
Mm. So it's so interesting you mentioned that because we got a tin can. There's like this new startup. Yeah. It's
Yes.
like, it's like it's an analog phone for all those of you who don't know what it is. It kind of like it got a little momentum within our kids' school, and we have a tin can. And the kids, at least my 9-year-old, will call for friends on it every so often. It doesn't happen all the time. Like I have like them like once every 2 weeks or so because everybody's busy. What is so interesting while I tried to listen to them on the phone, they have no idea how to talk to another person on the telephone. It is the funniest thing. It's, Anatina, like, they give this, there is no, they have no way, like, they don't know how to engage with a parent, with the, if I pick it up, they're like, hi, Anatina. I'm like, who is this? It's just so funny. It's like one word answers. It is wild.
Yeah, but think about it. Like when I was growing up, I mean, I still have my best friends from childhood, their phone numbers at their houses memorized.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. We used to memorize people's numbers. I would call, hi, is so-and-so home? Okay, great. I'll wait. And then you would wait. And then you had a time limit on the amount of time you could speak to them. And then, and your parents were also teaching you how to do that. Like I remember the first time I called someone's house and I turned to my mom. She was like, hi, is so-and-so home?
Yeah.
Right?
This is who and who. Yeah.
And exactly. And nowadays with everyone having cell phones, we're directly connected to the person. We don't even need to do the pleasantry of asking for
that is so true.
We don't need to wait. We don't need to maybe make a conversation with so-and-so's mom or dad.
That is the biggest thing.
Right?
Like you have no idea how to talk to like, hi, how have you been? Yeah. Like they don't know how to do that at all. That is wild.
Yeah. And a lot of it is teaching your kids. And we do that a lot in session. We have mock conversations.
Mm.
Oh, you want to hang out with this person? Let's practice the type of conversation you could have. Let's talk about how it could go. How would you respond to them if they said this? And we'll do role plays. We'll sometimes in groups, we'll do role plays. And it's really for all ages. Like we'll do this with college age students. Oh, you just got to your dorm and you want to ask, someone down the hall if they're going to a party that you're going to? And we'll practice it because sometimes it's about teaching them information that they haven't learned before.
Why do you think there is such a big gap between what we did? I mean, we watch TV. A lot of the things that we learn of like, the TV shows or whatever, and we try it out. The TV is still there, or is it? I wonder. But why do you think there is such a big gap of learning between it's one generation apart from our learning to like this upcoming one's really like half of a generation? Do you have any theory on that?
I don't know exactly what it
Mhm.
is. I think that in many ways, parents are parenting more and parenting less,
Yeah.
right? They're doing so much more. They're on their phones. Their kids have no idea what they're doing on their phones, right? So they could be making a reservation for their kid's birthday. They could also be online shopping. Kids have no idea. All they see is the phone, right? And so there's this constant kind of like disconnection.
Mhm.
Not constant, but for some parents it is more
Mhm.
constant. But they're also there more. Now parents are working from home a lot more, right? And so they're both there and they're unavailable.
Mhm.
And it's kind of bizarre. And I think also parents these days, like a lot of the research I've seen is working parents feel the need to do so much more. Kids are in activities constantly,
Okay.
right? Parents are like managing and juggling such intense schedules. Whereas when I was growing up, if I asked to do something and it like didn't work with my parents' schedule, they'd be like, no, sorry,
Mhm.
you can't do a travel sports team,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And I think nowadays it's very much the norm to bend over backwards for your kid. But all the while, a lot of these parents are so tired and then they're not always that present, I
This is
think.
so good in the sense like, oh, these are like all the different problems. And like, I am kind of like doing a mental checklist on like, in my, like how I am parenting. Like, you're right. Like, I'm on my phone all the time. I'm buying groceries. I'm doing all the things. Like, I am instant carding because I don't have to time to run to the store, or I'm like buying dinner and all the things. Like, I do a lot of things on my phone. I think I just need to cut that out. I need to do it on the computer instead of a phone. So I need to kind of pick what device I am using, doing what task, so that the other people, computer is a much bigger screen. So they can at least kind of like lean over, what are you doing? Um, but yeah, like, like pointing out these are the problems that, you have to have the awareness before you can fix it, fix anything. But yeah, like, let's say, you're diagnosing me. Let's use me, right? As the patient zero here. I want to be connected with my children. I want them to feel, just all the things that we talked about, either through modeling, boredom, what have you, and just kind of like bringing how we grew up, a little bit of that, not all of it, but a little bit of that back into this world. Like, what would be the top few things you recommend me to look at and to really audit?
Yeah. So I would say do a little bit less, ask for a little more
Mm-hmm.
help. I would say have your kids join you on different tasks and errands that you have to do rather than do the Instacart. Go to a supermarket. I went to Stu Leonard's a few weeks ago with my kids and it was the most exciting thing. It was like they came home beaming over
Mm-hmm.
it. Um and you're showing them that, oh, mom has to do these things, but we can do them
Mm-hmm.
together. Detaching from your phone for a period of time when you actually can, and connecting with your kids, sitting with them eye to eye, right? So whether it's like having breakfast with your child for 5 minutes, or and it doesn't even need to be that long. It's just having time where the two of you are
Mhm.
together and they're the
Mhm.
focus. And you could do it each of your kids separate. You could do it with your kids
Mhm.
together, right? And yeah, it's about connecting. It's about asking questions. It's about showing curiosity and interest.
I think one of this interesting thing that I keep on kind of coming to as well is even as I mean, we're talking about dopamine and serotonin and how really doom scrolling is just giving us a dopamine hit that we want. Meanwhile, it's just like if I am like constantly seeking that dopamine, my there is no way for me to teach my kid not to be addicted to dopamine because I'm addicted to
Yeah.
dopamine. So I
Yeah.
guess some uh, pointers there in terms of like how do we manage that relationship with dopamine versus serotonin and all the different things? How do we kind of relearn how to ride a bike so we can teach our kids to ride a bike again? Because I keep on saying, if you don't know how to ride a bike, you can't teach someone to ride a bike. If we ourselves are addicted to tech, it doesn't matter how long our kids are going to wait until they get a smartphone. They're going to follow exactly, they're like you were saying with their modeling, they're going to follow our behavior. It's just gonna.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is assessing your own behavior and seeing when you are turning to technology and what is it doing for you, right? Are you turning to it when you're in bed? Are you turning to it first thing in the morning? Um, and you're right. They're watching all of
Mhm.
us on our phone constantly. People walk down the street like this. I walk down the street like that sometimes. Um, and it is so rough. And so what we have to do is kind of like assess, and you could do that through, the various things we have on our iPhones that tell you how many minutes you're on things. We could set limits and actually honor
Mhm.
them. The amount of people that I have say, "Oh, I set a limit, I just ignore it." Well, then the limit doesn't exist if you're going to ignore
Right.
it, right? Like actually honoring those limits. Um, actually, and like showing that to your child, because anyone needs limits in things in life. And so showing that to your kids are really important. Your phone down. I mean, I starting last year started sleeping with my phone in the other room. And I tell people to do that all the time. It is so incredible. An hour before, maybe like 30 minutes to an hour before bed, I put my phone in the bathroom. It is charging, and people say, well, what if someone needed to get to you? Then they would call multiple times and my phone would ring because I have certain people on favorites, and I have a system that my phone will ring loudly if somebody calls multiple times. I'm not putting it on the other side of the house. I'm not turning it off. I'm just putting it in the other room where I have a detachment from the device. And then I read, or even watching TV. Our phones are now everything to
Mhm.
us.
Yeah. It's like a little genie.
They're the
Yeah.
grocery store. Yeah, they're every shop we want. They're our financial planners, their work, their friends. It's just like it's all there. And so, like, taking a break. I think the challenge these days with a lot of these kids is when we were growing up, the drama would end. Like, there would be some drama maybe after school, but we also had a lot of time to decompress when we were home. We did our homework, we did our chores, we decompressed. We did any sport or activity we have. Nowadays, kids don't know how to turn off because it just keeps going. They look at their phone, they have 100 messages from friends. And we also don't stop. And so it's about like catching yourself when you're noticing that you're doing that, and then actively saying, Mom's going to put her phone away. I don't need my phone for this.
So, and let's say, God, I feel like we all need a dumb phone at this point. It's like not just for the
I would
kids.
love
It's
a
like
dumb
not just for
phone.
kids, for all the adults out there too. Like we all just need a dumb phone, and and that you let that
Yeah.
be it. This is wild.
Yeah.
I still remember.
I love house phones.
I know, like
I would have one anyway.
I know, like I still remember the days where, like, you know, like we had like the pay phone, like though you can get to the, yeah, like you just can't, like they're not home. You don't know where they are. It is what it is. And you gotta wait. You can't catch them.
And you
gotta wait. Oh my
Yeah.
God. What a novel idea.
What? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is like, I feel like there's just so much going on. And it feels like we're all spiraling. And like we have to figure out like how to stop the spiraling down, whether it's this notion. I feel like, and this is interesting. I like now I'm thinking about like we talked about in that last like 36 minutes is that there is this asking for help thing. And then there is this device that's going to help us do everything. It's almost like we got to do the exact opposite of what we have been technically advancing in the past 100 years. Like, let's start asking for help. And no, you don't have to do everything by yourself. And it is okay for you to slow down. It is okay that, you know, you don't answer a few emails. Back in the days, I still sent letters.
I love letters. My practice sent letters this
It's
week.
like,
I truly love USPS.
It's like, I remember I studied in Europe when I was young, about 13 years old. I was by myself. My parents were in Asia. I was in Austria. We will talk on the phone like once a week, maybe, because it was so expensive to be talking on the phone, you know, across the ocean. We'll talk on the phone for like 10 minutes once a week. And then it's letters. Like you wrote letters, you put a stamp on it, and you wait 2 weeks for it to get there and another 2 weeks for it to get back. Like it was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know what it is. The waiting, yes, it is absolutely annoying. And it's like, God, I want it now, but we don't have that anymore. No, it's like you send a text and then, you know, like you were saying, they don't respond within
immediate.
Especially the red receipts. I feel like that's just a curse.
Oh, yeah, totally. Sometimes I find it can be helpful as an acknowledgement, right? If I read it. But it depends on the person.
So you're not telling me anything, right? But what do you think? Like, you know, they want that response right away.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. What are some of the exercises you do with the kids to entice or reward their patience? I know we all remember the saying, patience is a virtue, but yet we don't, right now, as the world is going right now, we don't need it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I praise them for being patient. I think I say, oh, I love how you waited there. I love how you didn't know the answer to that and we figured it out. I think that you know, a lot of it, I think back to like the marshmallow test, right? That you see in like Psychology 101, where like, if you are patient, you will get more. And so sometimes I talk to kids about that idea, about being patient and perhaps that paying off, which a lot of the time patience does pay off. And who in their life is patient? What does that look like? And how can you act with your body and mind in a patient way? And what does that look like? And I talk to people so much about sitting with things. So a lot of it's less, I mean, sometimes it's exercises. Sometimes we talk about if they're having trouble being patient in certain situations, we'll talk about like sitting on our hands or doing something else as we're waiting for someone to do something. But a lot of it is like, modeling, showing them brief things, and then praising and showing them the benefit of that patience.
Now, something just kind of like came to my head and I want to kind of ask about that because I could see like for a neurotypical child, that is probably easier to do. But I can also see like sometimes when we are talking about the thing among friends or whatever, a lot of the times I'll get this pushback. It was like, well, your kid is not like my kid. My kid is ADHD. We got to do this. We got to do that. So for families like, you know, with children with those conditions, like, what do they do? And that's another thing is that it wasn't a thing when we were growing up. You just dealt with it. Like, I don't know. I don't know how they dealt with it or if they were at all, or were just kind of like considered like it's just what it is. And like, what do you do there? Like, well, how do you recommend them in terms of actions?
Yeah, I hear that from parents all the time. Like, your kid is different or that kid is different. And I think it's about validating that. Your child is going to have a harder time. Kids with ADHD are impulsive. They do have a harder time being patient. And that doesn't mean they can't learn some strategies, but it's not as built in, or it is going to be a bigger lift. They might always be impulsive. Individuals with anxiety are impulsive.
Right. And that's just...
They're worried. They want to do something, right? That being said, you can teach them strategies to practice sitting with things. You can teach people with ADHD the social consequences of being impulsive.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you jumped in front of that person and they didn't like it. And so some of it is talking to them and teaching them and showing them.
Yeah. But I think at the end of the day is like how much capacity or, do we as adults have? And we too got to do things to increase that capacity.
Totally. And
rest. And ask for help.
Yeah. Totally.
So I love them.
The theme of the show. Rest, ask for help, and be patient.
Yeah. It's like, this is like just so funny, like how everything just weaves together. And if we're all able to do that for us and for each other, for neighbors, that's how we get our village back.
Yeah, how amazing.
I know. I'm going to go to neighbors and ask for eggs now.
Do it.
Well, I have amazing neighbors. We actually lost, I actually kept chickens. So for the longest time, I didn't need to, but then we lost the entire flock to a coyote attack like a week ago.
Oh.
So, yeah, that was hard. But then like neighbors and others came helped, and my housekeeper helped, and then my landscapers, they all helped with like different pieces of it. So like, we're going to take a break. We're going to do our travels. And then when we come back, we're going to have to rebuild it, which is very, very interesting. But yeah, I guess, we're going to build a village, one egg or one carton of milk at a time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my God, that was so fun. It was so good. Thank you so much.
This was oh my goodness. Thank you for having me. This was
wonderful. And please tell the audience, like, where do they find you? Like, how do you work? Virtual, in person, all the things.
So you can find us at uptownpsychologyny.com. We work in person in New York City, and we do a lot of virtual therapy around the country. And in Florida, we work in person doing therapy and evaluation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Annie. This is so fun.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Okay. That's it. Thank you for tuning in. Okay.
Amazing.